Welcome, Eagles, to another edition of Tradcat Night special guest exclusive show right here on the TradCat8.org website. Folks, today is 8/21/2024. Hope you all are having a very wonderful and blessed day. And listen, we're keeping the shows moving along. DrPaulCottrell joining us here right now. My goodness, we got an awful lot to get through over the next 35 minutes or so. We got to talk monkeypox, Project Skypox. People are talking about. There's I don't know, information buzzing around on X and Twitter that they're going to put HIV in the monkeypox vaccine. But I mean, it's, be surprised. We've heard this before actually from Paul with AIDS-like syndrome coming from the vax during COVID. Let's talk a little detox program. We got to talk a little economics, resurgent COVID. We'll promote Zeolite a little bit, and then we got to talk about the food fracas going on. What the heck is going on there? Where there seems to be it's just about every day. We'll hand it over to Paul here in just a moment. I'm going to shorten up the intro here so we get as much out of Paul as we can. But listen, you guys know the routine. TradCat Night. Follow us across all social media outlets. Don't forget about the new website. I'm working 2 websites now. Third-secret.com that will mainly handle the apostasy side of the church type of headlines and shows. Shows will start September the 2nd. Articles are already up. My latest article is up, so get on over there, become a paid member. And don't forget about the Substack archives. TradCat8.substack.com. Check that on out. Don't forget about the 3 Days of Darkness movie, still on Vimeo, most comprehensive English-speaking film on that particular Catholic prophecy, as well as Marie Julie Jeheni. Send me your special guest suggestions. I'm going to be working on the weekend, like on Saturdays. I really take a cheap amount of time out, and I'm trying to find a whole lot of new guests. And during the last sort of round of doing that, I think I got 5 new guests coming on in September. So if you guys have anyone that you'd like to see on the program, that's a major way getting a contribution on that side. And we'll see who else we can bring on in September. Don't forget about the Eagles Nest Inner Circle program. Reach on out. Let's get a little herky-jerky here. You can stay in close quarters with me in real time. Sacred Heart Summer fundraiser. We just had a very wonderful donation, a very generous donation from Linda Jump and the Jump family. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Need more people like Linda to step up to the plate so we can do as many shows as possible here, folks. I'm trying to at least get 15 throughout the week. Years past, we were normally consistently hitting about 25. So please do help on out. And appreciate all of our sponsors, from Mary Jackson to Kathleen Loney to John Dean to Samantha Wiesing to Joe Blazak to Nick Flew. Appreciate you guys all, and we're looking for new sponsors for the new website too, by the way, third-secret.com. You're going to go up on the main page, and I'll get you guys some quotes, and I'll try to take care of everyone. I know it's tough economic times, so we certainly are not surviving off of the no donations from our sponsors, so a great way for us all to help each other out. And having said that, we are now ready to rock and roll. DrPaulCottrell joining us here. It's going to be up on the big screen. And Paul, welcome back to the program. How you been staying busy? And my goodness, you want to start with the monkeypox thing? Everyone's got sort of their own take on it. A lot of people think this is live. I did have David Knight on the show yesterday, and he seems to think that it's just all vaccine related. It's not necessarily a bioweapon. That's not personally my opinion. I do think that it's both. You know what I mean? Like there are like bioweapons, and they are trying to actually populate us through programs like that, through chemtrails. I'm not sure if you heard about this Project Skypox, allegedly released by some whistleblower out of the Gates Foundation, but they say they're going to be spraying major cities. Garbage truck. Is that a garbage truck out there?
No, it's just outside. There's always deliveries down the street, and every time they back up to try to park, there's the sound. So.
Monkeypox, Project Skypox, vaccine, all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot going on. There is a big push by the WHO to make this an emergency situation. There are thousands of cases in Congo. The last I looked, it was around 17,000, 18,000 cases. There are 2 different types. Main types are clades. There's clade 1 and clade 2, and each type has sub-variants A and B. The one that we had in 2022 was clade 2B. And that was primarily in the homosexual community that was contracting it. This one has mutated. The question is, has it been a forced mutation or a zoonosis kind of mutation, a natural mutation. And now there is this clade 1b, which is the mortality rates are higher and it spreads much more efficiently. And it doesn't just stay in the homosexual community. What people need to realize, and a lot of scientists and MDs aren't even bringing it up, and I don't even think a lot of the MDs even understand it, but Mpox is a very complex virus, much more complex than HIV, much more complex than beta coronaviruses. It has a genome that is it codes for about 191 proteins. That's a lot, all right? And it's a large virus. And the mechanisms of pox viruses, especially Mpox, isn't really well known. All right. So more research needs to happen. More research needs to be conducted to really fully understand all the mechanisms of what's going on with the Mpox virus. But the main way it works is this. There's a protein called E3 that basically shuts down the innate immune system. It shuts down PKR, it shuts down MDA5, it shuts down RIG1, it shuts down OSA, and it shuts down intercellular interferon. So what that basically is, it shuts down the immune system very similar to what Caraco developed with the mRNA vaccines. All right, the mRNA vaccines shut down the PKR pathway to prevent a cell to go into antiviral. That's how the messenger RNA platform works. Part of that mechanism is the pseudouridine. With monkeypox, it's just developed proteins to be able to shut down the interferon and these other pathways for the innate immune system. The other major method that Mpox is that increases its infectivity and its mortality is the ability to prevent the activation of CD4 positives and CD8 positives when the cell is cognated to an infected cell. So a cell gets infected with Mpox, and Mpox has proteins that can actually shut down the activation of our CD8s and our CD4s to try to have our immune system fight it. So it has two mechanisms. It's shutting down the more adaptive mechanism and then the innate mechanism. So it's problematic, all right? In developed nations, if there's a big if developed nations get an outbreak, it's going to spread very similar to chickenpox. And you and I are of an age where we remember this in grade school. And so it's very easy to contract just by bedding, clothing. Let's say someone is traveling in a high density area like New York. They go to the hotel. They seem to be asymptomatic. And then all of a sudden they start to get pox, maybe one or two. How it normally happens is it's just like one or two. And then you start itching it and then it spreads and then it's all over your body after 2-3 days, right? That's the same way that chickenpox. Now, chickenpox is different because chickenpox is a herpes virus. So it's a totally different concept, but the way it spreads is the same. All right. So all you have to do is be in contact with some sort of contaminated clothing or bedding, or you touch the person, or you touch a pole. Let's say you're on the MTA or on the bus, or you do a handshake, at work or whatever. Sit on the toilet, at work or whatever. All right. That's how it'll spread. But there's a big if. The big if. The big thing here is that if the outbreak happens in developed nations. The problem that we have at this, as we are recording this, Mpox clade 1b is in Sweden, Pakistan, India, and I've heard that there is a potential also a case in the UK.
I thought there was a case here in the United States too. One or two cases.
That I'm not sure if that's been confirmed to be clade 1b. That might be clade 2b. But this clade 1b I'm concerned about. Now, you asked the question, is this, something that it has, some sort of nefarious development, or was it natural?
It's from the vaccine. Let's say it might be from the COVID vaccine.
Well, I'll address that. So I cannot prove if it's been lab manipulated yet. All right. But I am concerned that if you look at the metadata on this, the timing is really suspicious. And I am concerned that what they did was they took clade 1A and they modified it and released it back into the wild in the Congo to let it fester. That's what I think happened. I can't prove it, but that's my working hypothesis. Now, to address the issue with vaccine injury from the COVID vaccine, the manifestations of these dermatological lesions that people are talking about are different than Mpox. Because with Mpox, you can easily, when you look at a pox, it's round and you can lance it and you can actually sequence it, or you can do a PCR on it, and you'll get code for the Mpox. When you look at the lesions for individuals that have had COVID-19 vaccine, those lesions are flatter, they're not a pox, and that if you do biopsy those lesions, you're not going to get the sequence for the Mpox. So it's not, these lesions that they're talking about do exist, but they are usually a type 3 or type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Now there's another side issue here, and that is over vaccinating that weakens the immune system. So the question is why is Mpox such a problem? Well, if you already have a population that has a weakened immune system because of over vaccinating because of COVID-19, or the weakening of the immune system from contracting SARS-CoV-2, what you have is a dysregulation or a disactivation of your CD4s. So your CD4 count may be okay, but what's active, or what can be active, is diminished. So it's effectively a lower CD4 count. This is the reason why I keep on saying the SARS-CoV-2 era, the COVID-19 era, and the aftershock is going to manifest in an AIDS-like syndrome because the immune system is trashed. So over-vaccinating, getting SARS-CoV-2 affects the effective CD4 count. Now, so people's immune systems are going to be disrupted, and their ability to fight other pathogens is going to be diminished, such as Mpox, such as RSV, such as Mycoplasma pneumonia, right? So these other things that are popping up. Another thing that is very problematic for the Mpox patients, they're starting to become pediatric cases. All right. Well, the younger cohorts, they have a larger thymus. They're exposed to a new world, right? And they need to have a robust immune system. Well, if their immune system isn't robust, they're going to not be able to fight pathogens like they would normally. So this whole problem with CD4 being able to prevent the activation can really ramp up and be a catalyst for an outbreak in the developed nations. Now, you and I, because we're in the United States, they stopped doing smallpox vaccinations with the cowpox vax. All right, back in the I want to say in the 50s or 60s, something like that, in the United States. Outside the United States, a lot of the countries that were developed or developing, they stopped their vaccine program for smallpox in 72 to 75. Now, in developing nations that where smallpox is endemic, they still have some sort of vaccine program, but it's limited. All right. So, and these are mostly countries that are in Africa. So no one has cross reactivity for Mpox, is my point. You know, if you had the smallpox vaccine, which is a cowpox, right, that would give you cross reactivity for Mpox. Well, you and I don't have cross reactivity to smallpox. There are some baby boomers that might still have some memory cells in their body, but most likely won't activate, at least not robustly. So developed nations like the United States and the EU have a serious, serious potential problem. But it's a big if the outbreak happens. If it doesn't, this will die out. If it does happen, then you're talking about problems, big problems.
Yeah, no, this is some project Skybox. You think there's any truth to what's being said here with potential cover it being sprayed out of planes? Again,
I'm not familiar with Skybox, but I understand. All right. All right. You know, so but I here's the problem with these, you know, spraying it on, you know, from a plane. All right. You know, what's the altitude? If the altitude's high, then you're going to have problems with the UV radiation and affect the virus. In addition, it's going to be dispersed in such low concentrations as it's floating around and blowing in the wind and all this stuff that the viral load in any particular, you know, square inch on the ground would be so low that you wouldn't, you know, again, this is, people need to realize it's not just one virus, you know, load that will affect you. It's a function of your barrier, your skin barrier or mucosal barrier or your eye barrier or whatever. If it's disrupted and you have enough viral load in the area that's disrupted, you will contract the pathogen. So it's a function of how robust are your barriers, your physical barriers, how robust, how much of a viral load are you getting near that disrupted barrier. So I don't believe, even if it is true, and I don't know if it is true, the Skypox operation, I don't think it would be effective. It would be
That's basically what David was saying. That there could be a cover just to go out and get people to get monkeypox vaccine.
that. All right, if it's a psyop, then I would agree with David.
Yeah.
I would agree with David, but in terms of effectiveness of actually using it as a bioweapon through airplane drop, I don't believe that that's going to happen.
From COVID, you know how a lot of got vaccines are like what's the likelihood of they start doing this to the monkeypox here?
Well, I think that yeah, I think that we live in a society that is very superficial and physical looks are really important to them. If you start seeing with your own eyes people getting pox on their face and scarring, they are going to run to the CVS and Walgreens as fast as they can to get a vaccine. And here's the problem is that there's the way that the cowpox vaccine is made. It's kind of an older technology. It takes longer and it's more expensive. Now, there's going to be an emergency provision that will be provided that other makers using newer platforms like the messenger RNA platform will come online. I know that Moderna is working on a smallpox vaccine and it's in clinical trial 1 right now. So if there is enough, quote, need, manufactured or realistic need out there, Moderna is going to get emergency provision to fast track their monkeypox vaccine.
Yeah. Now, and for those out there, maybe have missed a previous shows, explain all the difference between monkeypox and smallpox. But I just I don't know if you remember back in the day, Gates was warning us that there was going to be a smallpox pandemic. And the reason why I think we're probably going to be entering the dark winter script, I mean, for a wide variety of reasons, with the election kind of coming around. We're now talking about monkeypox here late, August and summer, only through the fall time. But I'm going to cover the Dark Winter script allegedly starts December the 1st, so I could see that where we kind of roll from monkeypox into smallpox. The Dark Winter script reads Russia gets blamed on weaponized smallpox or whatever, and that could throw a big hamper into we got the elections coming up, and then probable transition here. That could throw a whole a whole monkey wrench into things. Well, give us break this down for us scientifically, the difference between the two. And as far as I know, the vaccine is the vaccine similar for both monkeypox and smallpox.
Right.
So I know they're starting to produce this thing.
Right. Okay. So there's a few things here. So smallpox, think of it as a spectrum. All right. Most of us in the United States have contracted chickenpox. Chickenpox is not a pox virus, not a pox virus. It's a herpes virus, but it spreads similarly. All right. So our visceral feel of what this means, just imagine, remember chickenpox, but worse. That could kill you. All right. Now, in some immune compromised individuals, chickenpox can kill you, but the average person didn't have that kind of experience with chickenpox. So it's similar to chickenpox, but chickenpox is a herpes virus. Okay. Mpox is a lesser version in terms of mortality or severity. It's a lesser version compared to smallpox, but they come from the same pox virus family. All right. Smallpox was eradicated, at least in developed nations, through a very robust vaccine program. Now, people will complain about, well, there was vaccine injury and blah, blah, blah. Yes. All right. But the world had this initiative to try to eradicate, at least in developed nations, smallpox. This is the reason why the baby boomers were the last ones in the United States to have vaccines against smallpox. Now, how they vaccinate for smallpox back in the 60s, the 50s, the 40s was using a cowpox version. All right. It's a lesser version, but it gave you the antibodies that had cross reactivity to smallpox. All right. Now there's only 2 labs that have supposedly the actual smallpox virus. All right, for research, maybe even weapon development. Who knows? Now, Mpox is a family, is another pox virus that's similar to smallpox, and would also have would have a similar cross-reactivity antibodies if someone had a cowpox vaccine. So if you had a cowpox vaccine in a developed nation or a developing nation, most likely, and you still have antibodies, still have active immune system producing those antibodies, there is enough cross-reactivity for smallpox or Mpox. The problem comes in is that most people in developed nations, their titer levels are so low that even if they had a vaccine, and this is the baby boomers that we're talking about, the X generation didn't get the vaccine. That means very few people in the United States has cross-reactivity for Mpox. Now, the ones that do would be people that have immigrated from a developing nation where for them to come to the United States and be a citizen or green card holder or whatever, they would have had to have the cowpox vaccine. Now, the other spin on this is that there's new development that's taking place where they're taking proteins specific to Mpox and building a messenger RNA vaccine against it instead of just using cowpox as the platform.
Gotcha. Let's talk about some of the remedies, perhaps. If someone does contract it, I heard pitcher plant, resveratrol. I know you want to promote zeolite here because I mentioned I was going to be starting a foot bath detox. So like I said, after a week, if it's kind of like a sham, I don't really feel like any better. I don't feel like it's really helping. I'll probably just stop it all. But certainly promote zeolite here. But what's good?
Well, I mean, I come from the standpoint that there's 3 pillars. So prophylactically, that means that, before you get something, prophylactically, you should be boosting up your immune system. You need to neutralize pathogens. You need to bring down inflammation, and you need to neutralize free radicals. That way, your immune system is built up. How do you do that? Structural nanosilver liquids and gels for neutralizing pathogens, because that maintains the mucosal lining in your oral cavity. It also maintains a barrier for your skin. So like the structural nanosilver gels, that's really important. And that also disrupts glycoproteins. So that's important to try to neutralize pathogens. Bringing down inflammation, because most people in the United States have chronic inflammation, their immune system is going to be down. If you reduce that chronic inflammation, your immune system is going to actually go up. The robustness of your innate immune system and your adaptive immune system. And then the other is that you need to take strong antioxidants like C60, like resveratrol. Olive leaf extract is really important to help boost up your immune system. Lignans help to boost up your immune system. Oregano oil, it has properties that will boost up your immune system, and also it's antiviral. So now that's the prophylactic. Now what happens if someone contracted it? Well, you got a problem. And the first problem is you're going to have a lot of itching. There's going to be a lot of skin irritation. There's going to be, there's not really good treatments, Eric, for Mpox. I mean, there's it's not, that's what I'm saying. This is problematic. So if you remember the days of chickenpox, you almost have to just let it burn through. Now you can alleviate some of the itching with the calamine lotions and the salt baths and all this stuff, right? So, but there's no magic bullet for this to go away. That's why I'm saying prophylactic means to boost up your immune system is the best, because if you do contract it, at least you have a more robust immune system to be able to fight it. But if someone gets this in a developed nation, it's just imagine your chickenpox times 5. However you had chickenpox times 5.
No. Shirtless for
right, and you get that, and it's around the dermatome, and it's burning, and right, yeah. So some of the things that I have that have offerings on my store that will help to these 3 pillars is the structural nanosilvers, like I said, the C60 for the strong antioxidant, and the turmeric and ashwagandha to bring down inflammation. But also things to take are like olive leaf extract that I have on my store, and zeolite, which is really important because a lot of people, they don't filter their water and they eat processed foods, and there's going to be toxins and chemicals and heavy metals in that food and in that water that people have been digesting for years. People need to start thinking about detoxing. Zeolite is a great way to soak up those toxins, soak up those chemicals, and get rid of it. So basically how it works is that it is a charged molecule, and it's a negatively charged molecule, and it will attract positively charged molecules that are like toxins, chemicals, heavy metals, and bind to it. In about 6 to 8 hours later, you're urinating it out. You do this maybe once a year, or twice a year. Once a year, twice a year. Some people do it every day. See, there's 2 types of zeolite. Some zeolite you can take year round, and others you cannot. So you got to be careful. The one I provide on my store, you can take year round. So what you basically do.
What's the difference?
Well, they'll say on the label. They'll say on the label. So
zeolite pure.
They'll say it on the in their sell sheet. But zeolite it is a liquid that you put underneath your tongue. So you start with just 1 or 2 drops under your tongue. Drink some filtered water. and you may increase maybe 1 drop a day up to 10 drops, and then just stay at 10 drop level until you run down the bottle, and then you're done. If you want to just do a bottle detox, but like I said, what I have on my store, you can take year round, and then you just go into a maintenance mode where you do like maybe 2 or 3 drops per day under the tongue.
It's better than like the capsules or the powder.
Yes, because you want the absorption, the bioabsorption.
So tincture's better. Okay, that makes sense. Right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm new to that world. So
No. The zeolite is important because you want to get rid of those heavy metals. Now, the thing is that there is a caveat here, Eric, and it's really important for people to listen here. When people are on medications, some of their medications may end up, as it's metabolizing, being positively charged molecules. And because it's a chemical in the body, the zeolite will try to attract that chemical. So it may try to inhibit the actual medication that they're on. So if someone is on medication, heart medication, maybe, whatever it is, whatever medication you're on, you need to talk to your doctor before taking zeolite if you're on medication. If you're on medication, if you're on, because you don't want the zeolite to inhibit your medication. What will happen is you'll start to actually notice that some people, because they have had really a poor diet, they may actually feel a little discomfort in their joints, but that's a good thing because what's happening is that it's getting the toxin out. And then over this period of time, what you'll notice this as you're using up the bottle, what will happen is that pain goes away and your body is getting into homeostasis. Now, what's the beauty of this is that by sucking up all those chemicals and toxins and heavy metals, you're actually helping your endocrine system. So you're going to start noticing that your thyroid's working better, your adrenal glands are working better, your energy. So it's a win-win. But some people, depending on the level of chemical exposure that they have had, may get some joint pain when they use the zeolite. But over time, it'll go away. It will go away as you're getting the toxin out.
Think about it, like where you're drinking a lot, and the next day you're trying to pump out all those toxins, you feel like crap. I understand that. I understand that.
And the same thing is just like a lot of people don't realize that toxins build up in adipose tissue. So when people start to lose weight, they sometimes feel worse. And the reason why is that the toxins are being released from the fat cells.
Also get extra sleep, especially going into the winter. I know I always try to make that a thing going into the fall, like winter time. And I'm not really I haven't been a big sleeper for years now. I know it sounds really bad, but I try to at least get like an extra hour. And like I'm conscious, like, hey, we got to strive for an extra hour. Go to sleep a little bit earlier because man, you need that for your
longevity experts and have noticed that one of the pillars for anti-aging and longevity is to have regular sleep pattern, and you need to have the 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep to be able to detoxify your central nervous system, to have the well-rested energy levels when you wake up, and also to consolidate memory. So chronic sleep deprivation, there are problems with that, with the buildup of toxins that may lead to dementia.
Now, Paul, we only have about 5 minutes left. I wish we had time to get to 2 or 3 other areas, but I wanted you to rehash the topic of where we're at economically speaking, but I'll call it the stock market dip. I didn't necessarily want to call it a crash. I know you didn't. It was like a 15-point correction on the down. Although Japan's Nikkei, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that. Their situation might be a little bit different than ours. They're still reeling a little bit too. They had a mega quake on top of that as well. But we got about 5 minutes left. Also tied in with shameless self-promotion time to talk to us where we're at on the economic side.
Okay, well, in terms of the U.S. market, like I said, there is a major support level at the 5,000 for the S&P 500. There's another major support level at about 4,830, and another major support level at 4,550 or so. So I'm not too worried about quote a major crash. And when it did go down, the S&P 500 went down 5,000. It went to 5,114. Didn't hit the support level of 500 or of the 5,000. If you trade this, it would be the SPY, which would be 500. But the thing is the S&P 500 did not pass, didn't break the support levels like I've been saying. And I still have a target of 5,800 for the S&P 500 or 6,000 by year's end. Now there are a couple caveats. One caveat is that we don't have nuclear war, the other is some sort of crazy thing that goes on with some pathogen. But barring that, I suspect that we're going to have a record S&P 500 by year's end. And if Trump wins the election, you may even have more of a bounce upward for that, because there's going to be this, kind of like this Trump. I suspect there will be a Trump rally if he wins. There may be a little bit of a short-term sell-off if Harris wins, but I don't think that it will be lasting, and then it would climb up again. So that's where I'm at right now in terms of Japan. Japan has a carry trade issue. We don't have time to really go into more detail about that, but the currency fluctuation causes a lot of havoc in their market. And the BOJ, wanted to raise interest rates, and that changed the carry trade between the United States and Japan, and that's a little bit more complicated, and we need a little bit more time to talk about it. In terms of the shameless promotion, I do have not just the two products that I have on my store, new products, which is the olive leaf extract and the zeolite, which are really good. The olive leaf extract helps to boost up your immune system and helps your cardiovascular system. It's really important to take every day. And I also have ubiquinol, which is the active form of CoQ10 that helps to boost up your energy levels and helps with cognitive function. I have K2 now on my store, vitamin K2, MK7, which helps with bone health and cardiovascular health. If you've been following my work, I talk about how to reduce plaque using K2. And I have nattokinase on my store. That's fibrinolytic. That will break up clots. But if you take it in higher doses, it will lower your cholesterol. What was the other one? Oh, NAD plus, which helps with energy levels. And
Dr. Barbara, that very popular TikTok. She's got books out. She asked
yeah, NAD plus is great, and it works even better when you couple it with resveratrol, NMN, and niacin. So you say the idea is to stack it. I'm a firm believer it's about stacking. It's not one particular thing. You need to stack it to get you're attacking the biochemistry in so many different ways that you're boosting up the effect. Now, and lastly, I also have NAC, and that helps to boost up your glutathione levels, and it's a strong antioxidant.
Yeah, I remember when I was researching off Xanax, I remember Luciano was so important. I think watermelon's super high. I remember eating a lot of watermelon back in the day to try to keep those levels up. But yeah, all this stuff works together, folks. Make sure you got your supplements in order here, heading into what probably is going to be a resurgent COVID, monkeypox, smallpox. Who knows? They still got the bird flu summit coming in October. Who the heck knows? Get extra sleep too. Get exercise in. Get out in that sun a little bit. And Paul, thanks for joining us here today. Was there anything else? We only have like less than 60 seconds.
Please, the ones that are listening, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
So we got Father Lawrence Carney coming up next. Until next time, stay safe, all right.